welcome to the season finale of the NFL Network. It is Super Bowl week, of course, and we've got a matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles, a rematch of a Super Bowl we've seen done in the past before, and there's a lot of things we can delve into on that one, but of course we're going to delve fully into that game in particular, including the team that I think is going to win that game. And of course, at the end of the video, I have my second big announcement for the NFL Network going forward into next season. Of course, the last time I saw you guys, I made the announcement about the Reviewing Network Live Madden 25 tournament, which will begin the Sunday after the Super Bowl. So, you want to go check that out? Go check out the other video I did. This will be the end of the video here, or even with the card on the corner. But we'll get to my second announcement at the end of the video. But before we do that, of course, let's start with where we usually start off with here, and that is, of course, the NFL Power Rankings. And here we are, folks, the final NFL Power Rankings for the season. Every team is listed here. Every team is in the position that I want to put them in. I'm going to run through the 32 to 6 very quickly, and then we'll delve into the top 5 into greater detail. But with all that said, let's get right to it, and let's start off with the bottom of the barrel, the worst team of the 2024-25 NFL season. As, of course, Aaron Rodgers presents the New York Jets, starring Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what more can you say about the dumpster fire of a season that they had, firing head coaches in the middle of the season, pretending like it's the owner that's making the decisions, even though we know it's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, who else is the guy that says, we're doing terrible right now, but you know what would help? Davante Adams. And what did Davante Adams add to the table here? 3 wins. 3 extra wins ever since that trade. Yeah, this team was pretty bad all season long, and they deserve to be at the bottom of the barrel here just because of how badly as an organization, not only that, but just like everything that's going on behind the scenes, the whole thing about, how, the free agents for the New York Jets, there was the whole thing about how they use Madden to figure out which is the best players to get in here, and it's just like, it's a disaster all across the board here. Hopefully Aaron Glenn fixes the problems there. Will Aaron Rodgers be a New York Jet next year? Probably not. But with that said, number 31, the Chicago Bears. If you look real closely in Detroit, you can still see Matt Eberflus still waiting to use that last time out of his. Have fun with him, Dallas, as your new defensive coordinator. Number 30, the Atlanta Falcons. Had some promise during the season, but then Falcons gonna Falcon. Number 29, the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that was so clustered and so... We have no idea what we want to do now because all of our star players are now playing somewhere else. I mean, you got rid of Josh Jacobs, and look at how well he did in Green Bay. Yeah, what more do we... Antonio Pierce, I don't think it was his fault that he got... It's not his fault that his team he got fired this season. They didn't build a team... He just didn't build a team that could compete last year, and people thought that this team was going to be something that actually was going to do something, but you can't do anything when your biggest star is Gardner Minshew. I mean, you wasted a great rookie season for the tight end Brock Bowers, and so hopefully they can build a better team around him. Having Pete Carroll coming in as the coach has a lot of question marks, and Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator because he worked incredibly well as the coach of the Eagles and the 49ers when he was the head coach. Yeah, again, Raiders, have fun with that one. Number 28, the Miami Dolphins. Just my biggest complaint about them all season long. They didn't have a backup plan for Tua. He was out for most of the season. The Dolphins probably could have competed, but they just couldn't do anything. They couldn't get anything done without Tua there, and it suffered big time. And now Tyreek Hill will more than likely no longer be playing there and probably go back to Kansas City or somebody else that could use them. 27, the New York Giants. Just what more do you have to say about how disastrous the season has been? Not only was their star running back now going to play for a Super Bowl this weekend, but they got rid of Daniel Jones, and they had a chance to get the number 1 overall pick, but they decided to say, screw it, we're going to win a game, because why the hell not? And you blew your chance to get a possible generational talent at quarterback here. I mean, this Giants team needs a lot of help, and again, like with the Raiders, they have a bright future with Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver. Question is, can they build a team around him? Number 26, a perennial favorite at the bottom of the list here, the Cleveland Browns, and none more so than this season alone, which this was such a disaster season for the Cleveland Browns, continuing to try to be could be like the Emperor's New Clothes and pretending like Deshaun Watson isn't a problem here. And, last year they had Joe Flacco and they got to the playoffs. They decided we could keep Joe Flacco around, but we got all this money tied to Deshaun Watson. We've got to use him no matter what. And look at what happened. He gets injured halfway through the season, and then we're forced to deal with the insufferable Jameis Winston for the second half of the season. I swear to God, Jameis Winston was unbearable to watch all that second half of the season because everyone thought that he's going to be the quarterback. He's going to give the Cleveland Browns hope. Yeah, the hope they gave him was a 3-14 record, and Myles Garrett wants out too. So yeah, way to go! Way to waste a generational talent, Cleveland. Number 25, the Tennessee Titans. Congratulations on the number 1 pick. Hopefully you're going to use it on a quarterback and make Will Levis get the hell out of here with his mayo and all that. Will Levis had more commercials for Duke's for mayonnaise this year than games that he actually won. And I thought he was going to be the future of the team. I mean, I thought Mason Rudolph coming in there was going to help bolster the offensive front here, but yeah, this team suffered big time, and I think they only got the number 1 pick overall because everyone else kept fumbling the ball. The Giants had a chance to get it, the Patriots had a chance to get the number 1 pick, and they failed to do that. And of course, now Tennessee's sitting with the number 1 overall pick and may end up trading it away too. Who knows? Stranger things have happened, but if I was them, I'd be smart enough to just take the pick and grab one of those top quarterbacks. But number 24, the New Orleans Saints. Oh my God, what a dumpster fire that was after week 2. I mean, we finally got to prove that Dennis Allen's just not a very good coach overall. And supposedly they're going to go after Kellen Moore whenever the Super Bowl ends. So maybe there is a future for the New Orleans Saints after all on that front. Number 23, the New England Patriots, down at the bottom of the barrel. And they have a bright future with Drake May as the quarterback. Mike Vrabel going in as the head coach is very interesting. And, hey, he was smart. He made a smart move going away, staying in Cleveland for a year and then waiting to see what Gerard Mayo would do in his first year. And then whatever the hell that happened in New England didn't work out. And again, it really was because they didn't build a team around Drake May to really do anything. And they were a team that had a chance to get the number 1 pick. All they had to do was just let Buffalo lose that game. Let Buffalo win that game. But nope, New England decided to play for the win, and not but a couple of hours later, Gerard Mayo was fired. So yeah, let's see what Mike Vrabel can do next year. But yeah, New England sitting there at 23. Continuing on at number 22, we have the Dallas Cowboys. All in. We're all in with our guys. I mean, what more can you say except all in? And yeah, they're certainly going all in now that Mike McCarthy is no longer there. And Brian Schottenheimer is the new head coach. And the aforementioned Matt Eberflus is your defensive coordinator now. And they could be losing Micah Parsons in free agency. And they're going. I'll just say it. They're going all in. That's all they're saying. They're going all in. And all into absolutely nothing. But hey, they're not the only ones who apparently are doing that, as we'll continue on here talking about it a little bit. Number 21, the Seattle Seahawks, who showed a lot of promise with Mike McDaniel as the head coach. Mike McDonald is the head coach, excuse me. Mike McDaniel is the Miami Dolphins head coach. But so many Mike Micks out there. Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniels, Mike McDonald. I mean, what's the next one going to be? Mike McAllister? I'm sure there's somebody out there with that name. So it's like, hey, now's the time to go get a head coaching position somewhere. But yeah, they showed a little bit of promise last year, but they just couldn't finish the job at the end. And they kind of petered off at the end. So now it's going to be very interesting where they go from here. Do they stick with Geno Smith for the foreseeable future, or do they go somewhere else? But moving on to number 20 on the list, we have Arizona. We have the Arizona Cardinals, who another team that showed a lot of brief flashes of promise there. They looked like they were on the cusp of going in and becoming the NFC West title champs, and then the second half of the season, they just completely fell off the radar, man. I think they need a lot of help on the defensive front. They've got a promising future with Marvin Harrison Jr. as the rookie wide receiver there, so but I think they got to build a defense around this team overall. But Number 19, the San Francisco 49ers. Boy, how the mighty have fallen. When you it just goes to show you that what I was saying before is true. Once you take away Christian McCaffrey and all these other weapons that Brock Purdy has, you start to realize Brock Purdy is very overrated as a quarterback. I remember everybody talking about him becoming the second coming of Jesus or the second coming of Tom Brady. But yeah, when you take away all those key pieces away from him, he's just another quarterback. There's nothing about him that's significant or anything. And yeah, this team just did not look very good last year overall. They looked like a shell of their former selves. But with Robert Saleh coming back as a defensive coordinator, maybe they get that magic back, or maybe maybe nothing really happens and just they go back to being sucky again. Number 18, the Jacksonville Jaguars. What a disaster season they had. It's hard to believe this team almost 2 years ago was in the playoffs and made it all the way to the AFC divisional round against Kansas City, and then now they have a team that has a future ahead of them. Trevor Lawrence just got paid. He played pretty good for the games that he was in, and they got a bright future with their own rookie wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr., who played very well last year. But the saga of them getting Liam Cohen is very impressive overall, and maybe this is the thing that the Jaguars need to get over that hump finally, or it could just end up being another bad coaching decision. We will see what happens, but they got the guy they won, and now they got to make it pay off in the end. Number 17, the Carolina Panthers, who I thought honestly was going to be the worst team of the year easily, but then in the second half of the season they turned it around. Bryce Young showed a lot of potential. That potential that he had is coming out of college, like that started to show again. Dave Canales is clearly doing something with him. It just took a little time. I mean, anybody that can have the Kansas City Chiefs on their toes in a game where the Panthers could have easily won that game easily, and then the defense just couldn't hold together. If they get some help on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball for Bryce Young, this team could definitely go places in the next couple of years. But we'll see what happens. But I'll just say this: it definitely looked a lot better at the end of the season for the Carolina Panthers than it did at the beginning of the season. And smack dab in the middle at number 16, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, a team that is perfectly placed here because they have no idea where their direction is going to go at this point. I mean, it looks like it's like they can't decide on if they really do believe in Anthony Richardson overall, or they wanted Joe Flacco to go, but they're wasting their talented stars on that team, man. Jonathan Taylor is probably the only bright spot of that whole team overall, and even he couldn't save the team for the much of the season. And yet they're still going to pretend like nothing bad is happening and everything's fine in Indianapolis. Nothing is fucked here. But will it work out? Who knows? But they're smack dab in the middle at number 16. Number 15, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that did everything they could to reach the playoffs, but unfortunately Denver had to completely blow out the Kansas City Chiefs backups. They literally had that opportunity to do it, and they just couldn't seal the deal. And it was not because of their offense. Their offense played very well, as we may have just seen the final stretch run of, the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins collaboration here. And now we've got a team that is looking for a new defensive identity because now Lou Lamoriello, who at one point was considered the top head coaching candidate, is now officially going off somewhere else and certainly not anywhere near the Cincinnati Bengals anymore because he's no longer there as the defensive coordinator. Will it change their ways, or will they still be just as bad as they were before? Too soon to tell overall, but we will see what happens. But the offense clearly was not the problem last year. It was the defense. And who knows if Jamar Chase even comes back anymore. I know they're going to try their best to keep him around, but stranger things have happened, so we will see what happens in free agency. But so now we come to the playoff teams. Number 14 on the list, the Los Angeles Chargers. Hey, Jim Harbaugh definitely showed there was a lot of promise with this team this season, but in the playoffs, they had a chance to do something. They had a chance to win against the Houston Texans, who did not look very good coming into the playoffs, but apparently Houston saved that energy for the playoffs in general. But hey, Chargers showed potential last year. Jim Harbaugh clearly knows what he's doing. Hopefully he can turn the tide around next season. But we'll see what happens with the Los Angeles Chargers. And then at number 13, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who started off so promisingly, but then completely fell apart in December. What a shocker. It's like this has been the deal with them for the last nearly 10 years. I mean, this is a team that I have gone off about so many times before in the past. I've ranted about them so many times. I really was considering doing a video talking about the sad state of Pittsburgh sports and pinpointing the moments when these teams completely fell apart. But, you know, what more do I even need to say about this team already? But, hey, it's okay because, you know what the Steelers think? Nothing. Because they're not going to do anything to fix anything. And, yeah, I just said it. I'll just say what I said on Facebook, is on social media. Pittsburgh Steelers, I want a divorce. Like, this feels like, I feel like I'm in a it's like I've been saying before. Being a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers is like being in a bad relationship with somebody that you know is a toxic person, but you still have that. But you still have that glimmer. But after you break up with them, you still have that glimmer of hope that they finally are learning their lesson. They're going to turn the tide around, and we're going to find happiness once again. And then you come home one day, or home from work, and you realize that she's fucking your best friend in your bed. And at that point, in this whole season, that last 6-week stretch when they did absolutely nothing at all, when they looked like they were that close to actually doing something, they just fell completely back to where everyone expects them to be. And again, nobody is doing anything to change anything. So you know what? Yeah, I want to divorce Pittsburgh Steelers. I just want you out of my life forever. And, yeah, I don't ever want to see this team ever again. I don't care what they do next season. I don't care who is on this team this year. At this point, I'd be willing to do, at this point, I want them to get rid of their star players, honestly. Like, I want this team to be a terrible football team going forward. And, because you know what? Najee Harris is going to win a Super Bowl with any other team but the Steelers. George Pickens, everybody hates him now in Pittsburgh, but wait till he wins a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. Wait till T.J. Watt wins a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I mean, like it's gonna be one of those things where it's just like, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I've ranted so much. It sucks to be bottom line. It's the worst feeling in the world to be a Steelers fan right now. I mean, I literally went into Dick's on Saturday at the mall. And the first thing I saw was Steelers stuff. And you saw it in my Movie Stop episode. If you saw that over on the main channel, like, I just couldn't. It was like being stuck inside of it's like an endurance test. Like, you stand over there looking at the stuff and you just think to yourself, what the hell happened to this team? And it's just like, I had to just run away from it because it's just like, I was getting upset again. It's just like, okay. Yeah, bottom line, the Steelers are terrible. The Steelers the Steelers will never win another Super Bowl in my life as long as they keep this up. And if nobody's going to do anything to change it, then why the hell am I even bothering to watch it? So with all that said, let's go ahead and get to the last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 teams before we get to the top 5. Number 12, the Denver Broncos. Hey, who would have guessed the Denver Broncos, in their current situation with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, could find a way to make the playoffs and actually actually is an understatement because they led for about 15 minutes in that game against Buffalo, and then Buffalo just completely ran all over them, and Denver had no chance after that. But to their credit, for a team that nobody expected to make the playoffs whatsoever, the fact that they hadn't been to the playoffs since Peyton Manning took them there to the Super Bowl that last year of his career, I mean, give Sean Payton a lot of credit for doing what he had to do. And Bo Nix, man, like, if they can find a way to get past Kansas City, if they can find a way to compete with Kansas City, I mean, this is a team to watch out for going into next season. I mean, this is a team that could legitimately be a threat to the Chiefs if they continue this momentum going forward in the next season. Or they could end up having a sophomore slump, possibly. Moving on to number 11, the Green Bay Packers, who showed some promise over the season, but unfortunately was stuck in the division and also had the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. So there really was not a whole lot for them to really get there wasn't a lot of effort there to really be that surprise team that they were last year. I mean, this is a team that had potential. There was a lot of times when they looked like a really good football team, and yeah, having Josh Jacobs in the backfield helped them a lot. I mean, Malik Willis played pretty well for the few games he had to come in as backup. And when Jordan Love came in, he was still playing pretty good football overall. They just couldn't get past their own problems in that game, in that wild card game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it bit them in the ass big time. So, where do they go from here? Again, only time will tell. I mean, they could probably use some more help with. I mean, honestly, I don't really know what else more they can do here. Maybe maybe they just need more help on the defensive front. I mean, honestly, because the offensive front is still very young overall, and they were playing pretty good last season. But it's got to get these injuries to stop, because Christian Watson was out for much of the season overall, and he really didn't do that much when he played, even when he was healthy enough to play. But again, we'll see what happens there. Number 10, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For a team that lost one of their big wide receiver weapons in Chris Godwin, to play as well as they did with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans having another great season, you got to give Tampa Bay a lot of credit, man. I mean, they played pretty good football, and they played really well against the Commanders in the wild card game. It's just, simple mistakes really cost them in the end here. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are definitely looking at a brighter path going forward. And I feel bad for Baker Mayfield because he lost another offensive coordinator, and this is not going to be his third one since he's been to Tampa Bay, and hopefully they find somebody to click with him, man, and just keep him around, because good lord, But anyway, moving on to number 9, the Minnesota Vikings, one of the most overrated teams in the NFL, in my personal opinion. I mean, this is one of those years where, everybody thought, no, this is going to be the year where the Minnesota Vikings just surprise everybody, and they're going to go in there. They're going to go in there, and they're going to be they're going to be the NFC's representatives in the Super Bowl, and yeah. It really was not like that whatsoever. It was another season where the wins that they had, most of them were basically wins where, they were very close games. They were one-score games. They were against teams that they were well known for being very good against, no matter who they were. So yeah, none of this was really a shocker whatsoever that the team fell apart badly against the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card game. But J.J. McCarthy comes back next year. Hopefully he could turn the team around. Hopefully we get to see the potential that he should have had last year. But, of course, he got injured. But, yeah, I don't think Sam Darnold is the future overall for the Minnesota Vikings. But that's just my personal opinion. Number 8, the Houston Texans. I'll give them this. I had them dead in the water when the season ended. I thought, man, this is going to be a one-and-done football team. But then to have the Los Angeles Chargers come to town and just completely dismantle them, it's just like, where was that at the end of last season overall? And yeah, of course, the Houston Texans lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, and then shocker of all shockers, it's the Texans that realized, hey, this isn't working out. We need to change this around here. So they got rid of Bobby Slovic as their offensive coordinator, and did they hire a new one already? They did. Nick Cali, who I believe was the tight ends coach for the Los Angeles Rams, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, see Pittsburgh, the Texans are being smart by changing things around. The Cowboys are being smart to change things around. You're not doing anything whatsoever. And okay, I am gonna stop with the Steelers bashing, but I still can't get over it, man. Speaking of the Los Angeles Rams, let's move on to something else. Number 7, the Los Angeles Rams, who were pretty good for the most part, was when they finally got everybody healthy again. They started off the season not that good, but then halfway through the season, when everybody was healthy again, you saw that team that really surprised everybody last year, and it played pretty good. I mean, they had a chance to beat the Eagles in the snow in that divisional game, but you just can't stop Saquon. Like I said before, if you can't stop Saquon Barkley, then there's no way you're going to beat this football team, no matter how hard you try. But speaking of teams that are very hard to beat, the number 6 team on the list is the team that's going to be one of the 2 teams that will be playing for the Super Bowl this Sunday, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. And listen, this channel is not being sponsored or paid for by the NFL, so I'm more than willing to say this to the public out there and not feel like I'm going to get screwed over by them if I don't say the right things about them. But I'm sorry. You're showing favoritism to the Kansas City Chiefs, not just to them, but also the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm sorry that people in the NFL don't want to hear this. I know that most of the conversations this week have been from Roger Goodell, and the head of the referee committee is just like, no, we're not fixing it for the Chiefs and all that. We're not showing any favoritism. Like, con men and scam artists spend many years concocting a plan to deny everything that everyone's been saying about them while doing the things that they're denying. I mean, that's what they're doing here, and it's not. It's just been it's been favoritism for years, not just with the Chiefs, but with the Patriots, but with every other team who's gone on this dynasty run. Like, it's just been like that for years now. But the Chiefs, the problem with the Chiefs overall is that they spent all season long being so terrible. They took the Steelers' way of winning games by the bare minimum, and then when it's all said, and then when it's all said and then when the postseason happens, it's like they all of a sudden become that dominant force that they've been. So, and like everything else about this team. Just I hate them. I think I hate them more than the Patriots. At least the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots were rough to sit through every single year, especially since they beat my Steelers so many times in the playoffs. But you know what? They at least didn't have an overrated singer as their main focal point of why people started liking them. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care. Taylor Swift still sucks as a musician. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I will live on that. I will stick with that until the day I die. Damn it. And yeah, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce didn't do much this year, but hey, people still love him anyway because he's banging Taylor Swift. Like, and now they just announced this week that the Kansas City Chiefs are starting a production company. They're gonna make movies and TV shows. Yay! Like, just like, okay, I'm done here. But bottom line, Kansas City Chiefs just barely make it at number 6 here. Well, with that said, let's get to the top 5 overall best teams of the 24-25 NFL season. And we start off with number 5, with the Baltimore Ravens, who made one of the smartest free agent moves this season by nabbing Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans. I mean, you saw what it looked like this season when he was on the field and they just gave him the ball. He just dominated every single game he played in, even the games they lost. I mean, he was the one thing that kept that team afloat all season long. And it was just all about, can the Ravens finish the job in the playoffs? And as we saw, that wasn't the case at all. They had a lot of critical mistakes. There was a lot of big moves that they shouldn't have done. I mean, it also didn't help that Justin Tucker missed a lot of field goals this year, I think because he knew the allegations that were coming out against him were coming out soon, which, yeah, Jesus Christ, Justin Tucker, you and Deshaun Watson are probably the best buddies right now, but the Baltimore Ravens, they did what they usually do. They wait for the Steelers to fall off the face of the earth, and then they take their position, and that's exactly what happened this year. Not only did they beat them in the regular season and dismantle all their hopes and dreams, but they did the same thing in the playoffs as well, because Pittsburgh's not going to do anything about it. Okay, last time I'm going to bring up the Steelers, God damn it, which is going to be a complete lie because I know one team on this list here has somebody on there that I want to talk about. But anyway, the Baltimore Ravens at number 5. Let's go to number 4, the most surprising team of the year, and I think it's no question that it's the Washington Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels, man. Jaden friggin' Daniels. I mean, for what he had to work with, for the team that he had around him, for the team that, had all these had this horrid history, this 25-year bad history with Dan Snyder as the man behind the whole thing. To take them all the way to the NFC Championship game, it's pretty spectacular. It's one of the most spectacular playoff runs I think I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, I knew there was probably zero chance that they were going to beat Philadelphia because, as I said before, if you can't stop Saquon Barkley, you're not winning that game. And sure enough, they couldn't stop Saquon Barkley. And as much as they tried to get back in the game, it was already too little, too late. There was just no hope for them getting back in there. And the end results spoke for themselves. But hey, they can build on this in the future. I mean, what they just showed in the playoffs really shows that this team could be something special if they can find a way to get past that last hurdle. But you got to give a lot of credit to Dan Quinn. You got to give a lot of credit to Jaden Daniels for what they were able to accomplish, and hopefully that continues in the next season. And I think they have a very good chance of doing so going into the next year. But of course, they had to get past the number 3 team on the list, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. And remember what I said about favoritism for the Chiefs? Nobody's talking about the favoritism towards the Eagles, too, because, yeah, it's much more obvious with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles really have a lot more just as much favoritism for the NFL. I mean, for God's sakes, Jason Kelsey has a show on ESPN, and it just feels like they use that as like a thing to like boost the hype up for when the Eagles make that deep Super Bowl run, which they did. And yeah, and it was mostly because of not only Jalen Hurts but Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been the major difference maker for this team coming in here, having a near record-breaking season and then not missing a beat in the playoffs. He has a chance to win the Super Bowl this week, but he's got to face against the team that has won the Super Bowl the most in the last 5 years. So, but we'll delve more into that when I talk about the Super Bowl itself in just a little bit here. But the Philadelphia Eagles, man, a team that most people have been able to shut the critics up for the longest time, and I mean, Nick Sirianni, I think a lot of people thought Nick Sirianni was going to get fired sooner rather than later, but even if he loses the Super Bowl, I wouldn't think you'd have to be crazy to fire him after a season like that. But the Philadelphia Eagles, number 3 on the list. Number 2, the Detroit Lions, who had been the number 1 team all season for most of the season overall, but then when it mattered the most, they had everything that they wanted. They got the number 1 seed. They were able to win games even with all the injuries that were piling up on the defensive side of the ball. But in that NFC divisional game, the critical mistakes the Lions made cost them dearly. And it not just with the game itself, but with the team that they had, with the coaching staff that they had. Because now their offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator have now gone on to other teams. They're now coaching for the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are. So I've got a feeling this team's not going to be as productive as they were the last couple of seasons. But that's not to say that they won't be a good football team. I think they will still be a very good football team, going into next season. But it'll just be much lower than I think a lot of people expected them to do. And I think everyone was really disappointed with the end result of that in Detroit. But how big will the fall be? Only time will tell. So who was then the number 1 team of the year? And I think if you could figure it out by the team I haven't mentioned yet, but the number 1 team of 2024, according to me, is the Buffalo Bills. Why did I pick the Buffalo Bills over the Detroit Lions? Well, it simply comes down to one thing. It's the fact that, everyone thought that once Stephon Diggs got traded to Houston, the Bills were going to go back to being sucky again. And yeah, there was a little bit of expectations that the Bills were... I thought to myself the Bills were going to be down a little bit, but they proved a lot of naysayers wrong. This is a team that just kept fighting and fighting all season long. I mean, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs pretty convincingly at home in the regular season. I mean, that was something where it's just like, okay, this team is seriously for real. But the biggest problem with the Chiefs is that that's the only game they lost last season in the regular season. And Buffalo kept losing games overall. So yeah, you can see where the problem comes into play here. And they, and to be told, they had a chance to win the AFC Championship game. I mean, they kept it close all the way to the end. But what people don't talk about with that particular game, and the point where I knew the Buffalo Bills weren't going to win this game wasn't because of the calls by the refs, which is easily one of the things that could be used against them overall. The calls that weren't made, the calls that were made for the Chiefs and not for the Bills. But no, the moment where I knew the Bills were more than likely going to lose this AFC Championship game came very early in the game. The first drive of the game. They go down the field, but they unfortunately have a 3-and-out. Now, that doesn't sound like anything too spectacular or anything serious and all that, but think about the last time these two teams met in the postseason the year before. The Buffalo Bills scored on every drive. They kept up with the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a chance to win the game, and the only reason they didn't win that game and advance to the championship game was because of the fact that the kicker Tyler Bass missed the game-tying field goal that would have sent it to overtime. Yeah, but even though they lost that game, they were in it all the way through. And just the fact that they missed that one drive of getting any significant points in that game, that's where the Bills lost the game. It was very early on because Kansas City was going to score no matter what because nobody could stop the offense from clicking for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Yeah, it just showed right away. Like, they tried to stay with it. They had a lead going into it in the fourth quarter, but then the defense fell apart at the worst possible time. And it's just like, you can't do that against the Kansas City Chiefs. If you want to if you want to knock down Goliath, you've got to go in there and take that fucker down. You can't just sit back and relax for 10 seconds. It's got to be a 60-minute lights out showdown. And the Bills, from the beginning, failed to miss the mark there, and Kansas City just took advantage. And as much as Buffalo tried to come back in that game, it just wasn't enough in the end. And I think it really stems from that first drive of the AFC Championship game that cemented their doom right away. But that doesn't take away from the great season that they had. From a team that everybody thought was going to be dead in the water without Stephon Diggs, the fact that Josh Allen turned it around the way he did, he should be the NFL MVP. It's no question he should be the MVP for what that dude was able to accomplish so far. And hopefully they can turn the tide around this season, but really, it's just all about getting past the top team in the AFC. Which, speaking of that team and the top team in the NFC, let's get to the moment of truth. The prediction for Super Bowl 59. So yeah, the worst possible outcome happened, because not only did we not get an exciting Super Bowl rematch between the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Commanders, which really would have been amazing, we are getting a retread Super Bowl. And not a very intriguing Super Bowl overall. Even though the last time these two teams played, it was very thrilling and very epic overall. But we all saw what happened at the end of that game. But now we are in New Orleans, and it's going to be the Chiefs again against the Eagles. And as I said before, both of these teams are the most overhyped teams in the NFL this season for obvious reasons, especially with the Chiefs, but with the Eagles as well. But let's put that aside right there. Let's talk about the game itself, because we've already delved into my feelings on how this is favoritism for both the Chiefs and the Eagles, and how the refs kind of help both of these teams out, especially the Eagles with the tuck rule, the tush push thing. That was stupid. They were literally going to give the Eagles a touchdown if the Commanders didn't let them do it. Like, they got to ban that. Hopefully next season they'll do that, but of course they're not going to do that, because then where's the fun in that? Like, yeah, where's the fun in that if you're not with these 31 other teams that can do that? But the game itself, the Chiefs and the Eagles. Last time these two teams met up, it was a close matchup between both teams. The Eagles had a strong lead in the first half of that Super Bowl, but then Kansas City causes a fumble, and then the game turns around completely. But the Eagles kept it close for the most part, and it really came down to a penalty in the last few seconds of the game that caused the Chiefs to win that game, kick the game-winning field goal, and caused them to win a Super Bowl in that front. And now they have a chance to make history this week with a three-peat, never been done before in the NFL. And who knows? Maybe this could be the last time we see some critical names on the field. I know Andy Reid says he won't retire after this if they win a third one here. But I mean, I'd go on top. If I was him, I'd go on top with a three-peat. There's been speculation that maybe Travis Kelce retires after this game. Who knows? But we all know this is probably not going to happen. This Chiefs team will be insufferable for the next 10 years. So, but with the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, you've got the biggest pieces on that front: Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. And this team played very well when it mattered the most in the second half of the season. The biggest question now becomes, can the Philadelphia Eagles use that against the Kansas City Chiefs and actually beat them in a Super Bowl? Can they do the same thing that they did to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots 8 years ago, when they were seen as the underdogs in that game, and nobody thought they had a chance of winning that game because they had backup Nick Foles in there and not Carson Wentz, who coincidentally will be playing as a backup in the Kansas City Chiefs sideline in the Super Bowl. And yeah. Remember when I said I wasn't going to bring up the Pittsburgh Steelers again until this one here? Yeah. You know who the backup quarterback is for the Philadelphia Eagles? Kenny Pickett. So not only am I going to have to watch not only am I going to be forced to watch Juju Smith-Schuster potentially winning another Super Bowl, I have to watch the possibility of Kenny Pickett potentially winning a Super Bowl. So either way, I'm going to be extremely bitter at the Steelers after this game, because, good Lord, everything that this team could do wrong, and you just completely gave away the best players they had and gave them to teams that they could literally do nothing in these games and still come out with a Super Bowl for these two guys. But again, last time I'm going to bring it up here, but But yeah, who do I think is going to win this game? Well, as much as I want to say the Philadelphia Eagles because of just the fact that if you can't stop Saquon, as I said before, if you can't stop Saquon Barkley, you're not going to be able to beat the Eagles. But the Chiefs can do that. The Chiefs could easily do that because this is what the Chiefs do. They find ways to win games. They find ways to trick defenses into thinking something else and then going for easy throwing passes to Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. You know, the Chiefs have all these weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown. I mean, there's a lot of pieces there. Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, you know, Kareem Hunt. I mean, there's a lot of pieces on this football team for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Eagles have enough weapons there, but I'm just going with the blatantly obvious one here. I think it's going to be Kansas City. I mean, I don't think Philadelphia is going to have enough there to stop them. I mean, they could keep it close. They can make it more interesting, maybe more fun overall if they keep the score close. But it's all about, one, stopping the Chiefs, and two, stopping these critical mistakes that are going to hurt your team, especially with the refs showing favoritism mostly to the Chiefs in general. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's going to be it's a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to watch because we all know, because we don't want to watch the Super Bowl. Honestly, we don't want to see these two teams in here. But this is the option that the NFL has given us. So if I have to choose between one of them, I guess my choice has got to be the Kansas City Chiefs because I just don't see any other way of them finding. I don't see the way the Eagles could do that because yeah, Saquon Barkley will probably have a big day on Sunday, but it won't be enough because Patrick Mahomes can throw the ball just as quickly as the Eagles can score overall. Like, they can find ways to get downfield so quickly, and unless you find a way to stop Patrick Mahomes, like hope that he gets injured or something like that, or just find a way to completely disillusion him and get him to throw picks. You're not stopping Kansas City in any way, shape, or form. In fact, how funny would that be if Carson Wentz has to come in and start if Patrick Mahomes suffers a serious injury and he gets to do that to against former team? Like, the Eagles are outnumbered in every way, shape, or form here in this matchup here, and unfortunately, that's the direction I think it's going to go here. I think Kansas City will win this one easily. They'll become the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls, and who knows? Who knows what happens from there? Do they go for the four-peat? Do we see some notable names retiring after this one? Who knows what will happen? But I don't think Philadelphia has a chance in this one, honestly. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give the Kansas City Chiefs the win in this one here. Kansas City, fourth Super Bowl in 6 years, which means that they will be 1 away from tying the Steelers and Patriots, and then 2 away from becoming the team with the most wins in Super Bowl history. Which, judging by the direction of this team's going from this point forward, it's more than likely going to happen. So get ready for more of this, folks. I mean, see, that's the problem right now with the NFL right now, is that the AFC has 3 of the best quarterbacks playing football right now in Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And nobody else in that conference comes close. CJ Stroud, maybe comes close. Maybe there's some future with Bo Nix. But, you know, these two, yes, Joe Burrow, of course, is still there. But unfortunately, he didn't make the playoffs this year. I mean, the AFC has good quarterbacks, but if you can't beat Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes, you've got no chance whatsoever. The NFC doesn't have that quarterback star, that big star that Patrick Mahomes is for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I think the only person that comes close is Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's the only one. He's the only quarterback who's been with the same team in the last 5 years for the NFC that has gotten them to the Super Bowl. Because yeah, the Rams made the Super Bowl twice in the last 7 years, but they did it with 2 different quarterbacks. They did it with Jared Goff the first time around, and then they did it with Matthew Stafford, in which the one they won. And is there anybody else that I'm completely forgetting about here? Give me 1 second. The only person that ever comes close to that for the NFC was Russell Wilson when they went back-to-back with the Seattle Seahawks. But, of course, that was over 10 years ago. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts is the only guy right now who is seen as a legitimate superstar right now. You've got rising superstars, guys like the aforementioned Jaden Daniels. Baker Mayfield's playing pretty good. Yeah, I think Jared Goff probably could still be considered very good. Jordan Love. Who else? I guess Matthew Stafford's still playing pretty good after all these years. But yeah, the NFC just doesn't have that big quarterback draw like the AFC does with Mahomes, Allen, Jackson. The only real one that's in for the Eagles right now is Jalen Hurts, but we'll see what happens with Jaden Daniels going forward. Can he continue Can he continue this into next season, or will he face a sophomore slump? But yeah, it's the NFC's really not looking good right now, and it's more like the AFC's dominating right now. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising at all if this is the complete opposite of what the AFC was going through in the 1980s and early 90s. Remember, there was that long stretch between, I think it was 1984 and 1997, when the NFC didn't kept winning Super Bowls all the time. San Francisco won so many Super Bowls. Washington won a couple of Super Bowls. Chicago won. The New York Giants won a couple of Super Bowls. Dallas won 3 Super Bowls. Green Bay, the AFC didn't win a Super Bowl between the time the Los Angeles Raiders did in '83 and the Denver Broncos did in 1997. That's 14 years. And I really feel like that's happening right now with the NFC right now. Until they get somebody on the level of a Patrick Mahomes, I think the AFC is going to dominate the Super Bowl runs until the day an NFC team really comes up and surprises everybody. It could happen this weekend. Jalen Hurts could really surprise everybody and do it, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening. And like I said, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs to win it just because I feel like they're the team that easily has a better shot at winning it because they have been in this stage before. They know exactly what they need to do to win these games. And yeah, all the criticisms I gave about them, I mean, it doesn't matter because, they're the ones that are going to be holding the Lombardi Trophy if they continue to do what they did so well. The only time the Kansas City Chiefs never won a Super Bowl was when Tampa Bay beat them pretty convincingly with an older Tom Brady, but even then, I mean, that's from that time, that 2-year stretch where I think every team that won a championship was a paper champion overall, and just kind of did it mostly because, we were stuck in COVID, and most people didn't want anybody to go out to these long distance areas. I mean, that was the reason. That's why I felt like Tampa Bay and Los Angeles made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl because they were the home teams that season. But then again, the Los Angeles Dodgers proved last year that they were a fluke overall. But then you still got the Los Angeles Lakers, who still haven't won a championship since then. Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't want to say that they were paper champs overall, but they played pretty good for the most part. They played a good stretch run there, even after COVID came to an end. But yeah, I'm just kind of rambling on right now. But like I said, I think Kansas City is going to win the Super Bowl, no question about it. And yeah, it's going to be a tough sit-through to watch. And yeah, I was one of those people that was even saying I might not watch the Super Bowl overall. But then as time went on, I just kind of realized I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, there's literally, unless something big was going to be on at that same time where I could watch instead of the Super Bowl, yeah, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm going to be mostly watching it for the commercials overall, but I will be doing a live rewatch of the Super Bowl commercials, just like I did last year. And if you saw the video I did last year, I did the last Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the 49ers. I did it with my first impressions on the commercials overall. I have yet to watch the commercials that have been leaked online so far, even though I've seen a couple of the trailers that supposedly are going to be Super Bowl commercials. I think there was a Hurry Up Tomorrow came out today. I think they said they said it might be at the Super Bowl. Fantastic Four had the trailer drop today. We got Jurassic World coming up tomorrow. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of movie trailers will pop up on here. I'm looking for that surprise one. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the surprise trailers are going to be tomorrow, because there was a couple of surprise ones last year that kind of came out of nowhere and that were actually kind of interesting. Like Wicked was one I was really surprised they came out with that time. We're not going to get a Wicked sequel trailer this year though, which is a little disappointing, but we'll get to see Mission Impossible. We'll get to possibly see Lilo and Stitch, and also Thunderbolts. I'm also kind of curious about the Smurfs movie, because apparently there's a trailer coming out for that too, so be interesting to see where they go there. Hopefully the commercials will be good too. So there you go. That's my predictions for Super Bowl 59. Prepare for Kansas City to have a three-peat, folks. So there you go. That's my predictions for Super Bowl 59. Before we get to my new announcement that I want to delve into here, let's talk about the announcement that I had last time when I was here, talking about the Reviewing Network Live Madden 25 tournament. Now, if you don't remember what I said about this is a tournament that's going to be played through the Madden 25 video game, featuring all 18 teams that did not make the playoffs this season, and the way they're positioned are their current draft positionings coming in the upcoming NFL draft. So, just to remind you of what the schedule is going to be, the Sunday after the Super Bowl, it kicks off with the 5-seeded Jaguars taking on the 3-seeded Giants, the 4-seeded Patriots taking on the 1-seeded Titans. Then Saturday, February 22nd, the winners of the Jaguars-Giants game will go on to play the 18th-ranked Seahawks. The winner of Patriots-Titans game plays the 16th-seeded Cardinals. Then on February 23rd, the 13th-seeded Dolphins play the 8th-seeded Jets. The 14th-seeded Colts play the 2nd-seeded Browns. The 17th-seeded Bengals play the 6th-seeded Raiders. Then Sunday, March 2nd, the 9th-seeded Saints play the 7th-seeded Panthers. The 11th-seeded 49ers play the 10th-seeded Bears. The 12th-seeded Cowboys play the 15th-seeded Falcons. And then Sunday, March 9th, the first 4 winners of those games play in the Elite 8. And then the following week, the other 4 teams who win those games play in the second part of the Elite 8 on March 16th. And Sunday, March 23rd, will be the Final 4. The 4 teams that won in the Elite 8 play to be the 2 teams to be representing in the championship game, which will be at the last Sunday of the season, Sunday, March 30th, the Madden 25 championship game, with the winners of the Final 4 games. So there you go. That was the Madden 25 tournament announcement from last time. Now what about the new announcement? Well, if you saw if you've been checking out the Reviewing Network live episodes this season, you'll know that I've done these live rewatches every once in a while of various Steeler games. Like I did a couple for when the Steelers played the Jets and the Giants and the Redskins, or the Commanders, I should say. Well, could become the Redskins again, knowing how things are going right now. And I also did the season opener against the Falcons. And this was kind of a test to see whether or not I wanted to see if this could be something I could do on a regular basis next season. And that's what I'm here to talk about here. So next season, there's going to be a bi-weekly show here coming up here. The Reviewing Network, as I'm proud to announce, the Reviewing Network Live's Sunday Night NFL Rewatch. And it's only going to be a limited basis for right now. Probably about half the season overall, depending on which games are going to be selected. So I'm very pleased to announce this. This is going to be, and these live rewatches will be out on the same day I post new episodes of the Reviewing Network Live, so you get a double dose of both of those coming up on Sundays starting this fall. And and when the schedule comes out, I will pick the selected games, and then I'll make another video announcing those games in particular. So there you go. Be on the lookout for that. The Reviewing Network Live Sunday Night NFL Rewatch coming your way this fall. And with all that said, that's it. That's the end of the NFL Network season. And I want to thank you guys out there so much for watching this video and watching the other videos and really liking what you see here. It's been an interesting ride here so far this season. It's been a very intriguing journey to take this year, and of course we will be back with another round of this next season. And it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun to do this season, and I'm really glad I got a chance to do it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. So thank you guys so much for enjoying this season of the NFL Network. It's been a great year. Hopefully the Super Bowl will end this on a good note, but we'll wait to see what happens there. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you've been watching this channel through the show here, I appreciate you doing it, and I hope to see you next season. But you really are missing a lot from the other shows on this channel, because they are indeed worth it. So please go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe button, check out some of the other videos I've done. Check out all the episodes from Season 1 of the NFL Network, as well as the last episode I did. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl, and I'll see you guys next year. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.